Nowadays, when we don't like a film, we too often act like its director personally came to our house and hit us in the face with the corpse of our childhood pet. And it's precisely this type of thinking that makes us overlook the good in many box office bombs, like their incredible action scenes for one. I'm Alex from Rock Culture, and this is 10 amazing action scenes from terrible movies. Number 10. The shirtless Mickey Rourke Tiger landmine explosion from Double Team. In 1997, Dennis Rodman tried to pivot from his basketball career into Hollywood stardom with the film Double Team. This Jean-Claude Van Damme action comedy would eventually come to represent the general tone of Rodman's post-NBA days, in the sense that it too was an awkward and confusing train wreck that the world is still trying to forget. In Double Team, JCVD and Rodman play two cliches who must stop international terrorist Mickey Rourke from selling an explosive plot device to plot device land. In the end though, things start to get a little interesting after Rourke kidnaps JCVD's baby and places it as bait in a Roman amphitheatre filled with landmines and a hungry tiger. He also takes off his shirt, which we're pretty sure Rourke insisted on personally. The Rourke JCVD Rodman fight itself was entertainingly brutal, but it was upstaged by the last few minutes when Rourke steps on a landmine and is confronted by the ferocious tiger he let loose earlier. Making peace with his inevitable death, the topless terrorist waits for the animal to leap at him, detonating both himself and the 600-pound murder kitten in a blazing fireball of orgiastic action glory. In short, this long-forgotten dud of a movie basically managed to create a live-action version of a heavy metal album cover. Number 9. The Battle Through History from X-Men Origins Wolverine. The opening of X-Men Origins Wolverine should be sufficient evidence to sue the entire movie for false advertisement. While X-Men was one of the worst superhero stories ever put on film, with a nonsensical plot, PlayStation 1 era CGI, and a total character assassination of Deadpool, the opening was essentially a touching mini-movie about blood bonds and the horrors of war. At the beginning of the film, a young Wolverine and Sabretooth find themselves alone in a confusing world and swear to always be there for each other. Making use of their quasi-immortality, they become soldiers and fight their way through the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Hitlering, and the Vietnam War. Eventually, though, Logan notices that Sabretooth is giving more and more into his animal nature, ripping people's throats with his bare hands or mowing down innocents in Vietnam. The Sabretooth sequences are very cool to look at, but it's how Wolverine deals with this carnage that really makes the whole opening. Even after murdering multiple civilians and trying to rape a girl, a torn and confused Logan still tries to protect his brother because of the bond they've forged on the battlefields of history, the tragedy of which is conveyed entirely without any dialogue. It's possibly one of the deepest action scenes in any superhero movie ever. Sadly, it's later followed by a scene of Wolverine punching a morbidly obese man unconscious. Number 8. The train chase from the Lone Ranger. Was Johnny Depp with a dead bird on his head playing a Native American offensive? That's a good question, as is the one about whether The Lone Ranger was a satirical comedy or a dramatic action movie. But don't ask the movie that, because even it wasn't sure what the hell it was. What is certain is that the end result was a disappointing, disjointed mess, which is unfortunate because underneath it all, you can totally see the potential for greatness, especially during the final train scene. The ending of The Lone Ranger could best be described as a live-action Looney Tunes car chase with steam locomotives instead of cars. Imagine two fire-powered houses on wheels chasing, overtaking and crashing into each other, all amidst a never-ending bullet hell barrage and the heart-pounding sounds of William Hell Overture. Then add some Buster Keaton-esque stunts and a masked cowboy riding his horse on top of the trains, and you'll start to have some idea about what an insane trip the whole sequence was. The true genius of this entire scene is that it keeps you at the edge of your seat while still being playful and fun, as symbolised by the final train crash that looks like... Have you ever seen a building high dive? Well, it looks a bit like that. Number 7. The mermaid attack from Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Other than its tides, the strangest part of the fourth Pirates movie was just how boring it has managed to make the story about Blackbeard looking for the Fountain of Youth. That's actually quite the accomplishment. As was the movie's mermaid attack scene, but for totally different, better reasons. For you see, On Stranger Tides is one of the few movies out there where mermaids are legitimately scary monsters. The pirates' mermaids are as far from Ariel's cousins as you can get, instead being this homicidal swarm of alluring half-human, half-shark piranhas. During their introduction, they approach a pirate boat slowly and carefully, luring them in with their songs until they decide that it's dinner time. From then, the murderesses circle the boat, jump from the water to knock down their prey and feast on it, all while hissing menacingly like crazed beasts in the midst of a bloodlust episode. That's what ultimately makes this action scene so great. It portrays the mermaids as nearly mindless, vicious beasts with the appearance of beautiful humans, creating a horror scene that defines the meaning of the word grotesque. Pity that in order to get it, you first have to watch Penelope Cruz pretending to be Jack Sparrow, as if the nonsensical plot point wasn't hard enough to get. Number 5. The Sporting Goods Store Brawl from Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning. Universal Soldier is the 1992 Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle about a secret government recycling project to reanimate, brainwash, and reuse dead soldiers, with the vehicle in question being a garbage truck driving off a cliff. Despite its cult status, Universal Soldier performed horribly at the box office and with critics, which is why it's so weird they made so many equally bad sequels to it. But it's a good thing they did, because the franchise's 4th installment, Day of Reckoning, features one of the most vicious, Terminator-esque fights ever put in a sci-fi action flick. The best part about the Sporting Goods Store brawl between the protagonist John, Scott Adkins, and the Unisol named Magnus is that the two act as if they were in different movies. John fights, or rather tries to fight, like a cliché action hero, with acrobatic kicks and martial arts, all while Magnus fights to kill as quickly and mercilessly as possible. With every attack he goes for maximum damage, focusing on total brutal efficiency instead of trying to make the fight look cool. In short, he fights like an actual emotionless killing machine. Without meaning to, Universal Soldier basically created the best Terminator fistfight scene you've ever seen. Number 4. The bar fight from Daredevil. Before becoming known as the gritty superhero who could give Batman a few lessons in brooding thanks to his Netflix series, Daredevil was mainly known to mainstream audiences from the 2003 Affleck movie, aka the E.T. video game of superhero flicks. Even if we forgive it for including Evanescence and Nickelback on its soundtrack, which we're not doing, there were just too many things wrong with the movie, from the story all the way to the editing. Except the fight scenes. Most were okay, with the bar brawl being one of the most badass superhero sequences ever filmed. Rather than dispatching a bunch of bar goons in an efficient, realistic way, Affleck's Daredevil somersaults from one thug to the other, spinning, kicking and punching his way through them like a human tornado clad in red leather. His moves are unnecessarily/awesomely complicated, but it works, seeing as we're dealing with a character whose main superpower is that he's in really good shape. Most importantly, the entire fight is chaotic as hell, what with the flickering lights and constant noise of bullets and bones breaking. But thanks to his total mastery of his body, Double D is able to move effortlessly through this total assault on the senses, which is an aspect of the character that the Netflix series could have explored more. On the other hand, the TV show also didn't feature Elektra assaulting a blind man on a playground, so it all evens out. Number 3. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn vs Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace. There are many reasons to hate the Star Wars prequels, like the awful dialogue, no real effort to improve on the original trilogy, and horrible characters that will go down in history as the Jar Jar Binks of Star Wars. But, interestingly, there's one scene in The Phantom Menace that suffers none of these problems and instead delivers one of the greatest Star Wars action scenes ever, the fight between Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul. The beauty of that sequence is that, first of all, it has no clunky dialogue reminiscent of C-SPAN, in space, to take you out of the story, who manages to look intimidating despite resembling the end result of Game of Thrones' Night King making sweet love to a bucket of red paint. Finally, the Phantom Menace fight was the first time we saw Lucas's creations do something really cool with lightsabers. As great as the original trilogy was, their lightsaber battles were kind of meh, but not here. During this scene, the characters only seem to be able to move forward through jumps and somersaults like a Cirque du Soleil troupe on Too Much Coffee. The lightsaber fencing is equally fast-paced, never giving you a chance to relax and really make you experience the intensity of a laser sword battle between samurai space sorcerers. Number 2. The Pyramid Showdown from Alien vs Predator. Before Justice League, the blockbuster comic book crossover movie that disappointed millions of people with its stupid plot, weak characters and too much slow motion was the 2004 flick Alien vs Predator. Fans waited years for two of the biggest sci-fi movie monsters to face off on screen, so naturally the movie gave them a film that waited nearly 50 minutes to actually show the two titular characters. However, to be fair, once they faced off in an Antarctican pyramid, it was pretty much all we ever hoped for. We've only ever seen the Predator go up against humans, while never being fully able to attack them head on, because then his hunt would be over in 5 minutes flat. And where's the fun in that? But here, the extraterrestrial hunter battles a nearly invulnerable killing machine, so he's able to just charge at the alien xenomorph like a complete madman. Finally, we see the stealth, patient hunter let his cosmic dreadlocks down and forget finesse in favour of just trying to punch Ridley Scott's creation to death. The pinnacle of the battle is when Predator picks up the alien by its tail and bashes it savagely on a bunch of columns. And if seeing an alien Elmer Fudd swing a space bipedal shark with acid blood like a piñata stick doesn't bring a smile to your face, then nothing ever will. And number 1, the flaming excavator carnage from Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. A movie that couldn't be saved by the inclusion of Idris Elba is a movie that went out of its way to be bad. The first Ghost Rider was already pretty awful, and the sequel followed proudly in its footsteps, possibly out of fear that we'd accuse it of being inconsistent. It's crazy though, because the story of a hell-fighting spirit of vengeance with a flaming skull for a head should be as amazing as the drug bender at which the character was clearly conceived. The second movie gave us a taste of the insane fun that it could have been during one mind-blowingly awesome action scene. One of Ghost Rider's powers is transforming any vehicle into a hellish machine of supernatural fire. In Ghost Rider 2, he does it to the Bagger 288, a 13,500-ton excavator, which he instantly uses to ruin the day of a bunch of faceless goons. Well, to be fair, they were missing a lot more than their faces after being hit by a magical inferno chainsaw the size of a football field. The sheer scale of the Flaming Digger is unlike anything you've seen in any movie. The longer you watch this scene, the more tempted you'll feel to follow Ghost Rider's lead and cackle maniacally at the splendour of this eldritch machinery powered by the forces of hell.